Baik, waktu telah menunjukkan pukul 7 malam tepat waktu Indonesia Barat, dan langsung saja mungkin kita mulai. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat malam, salam sejahtera buat teman-teman semuanya di seluruh dunia. Perkenalkan, nama saya Naida Softić sebagai MC pada acara ini. Baik, sebelumnya terima kasih banyak kepada para peserta yang telah bergabung, meluangkan waktunya untuk berbagi ilmu kepada kita semua, dan para peserta yang telah bergabung pada acara ini. Baik, di sini ada beberapa speakers. Pertama, ada Wali Kota Dublin. Yang kedua, ada Bapak Kieran, yang ketiga ada Bapak Saud Anwar, yang keempat ada Bapak Kiai Haji Nasaruddin Umar, kemudian ada Bapak Imam Mohammad Bashar Arafat, kemudian ada Miss Ayanna, kemudian ada Bapak Adil, selanjutnya Mbak Naida Softić, kemudian ada Ibu Analik, dan selanjutnya ada Ibu Waziha. Selamat bergabung kepada para pembicara yang telah hadir di tengah-tengah kita pada malam hari ini. Baik, sebelum kita mulai acara ini, kita akan memanjatkan doa terlebih dahulu untuk saudara-saudara kita yang sedang terkena musibah, tepatnya di Sigi ya, di Indonesia. Untuk doa ini yang dipimpin oleh saudari Fania. Kepada saudari Fania, kami persilahkan.
Selamat malam semuanya. Saya mohon izin akan memimpin doa pada malam hari ini berdasarkan secara Buddhis, berdasarkan keyakinan saya. Berdoa akan saya mulai. Terpujilah Sang Yang Adi Buddha, Ketuhanan yang Maha Esa. Terpujilah para Buddha dan Bodhisattva. Terpujilah para guru yang Maha Welas Asih. Pada malam hari ini kami akan mengadakan kegiatan, semoga kegiatan ini dapat berjalan dengan baik dan lancar. Kami juga berdoa untuk para saudara kami yang menjadi korban dalam pembantaian di Sigi. Semoga korban dapat terlahir kembali sebagai manusia dengan 18 permata. Semua kebajikan ini kami dedikasikan untuk Indonesia dan perdamaian dunia. Semoga Indonesia dan dunia selalu hidup damai dan rukun. Semoga kebajikan ini pula melimpah kepada semua makhluk tanpa terkecuali. Semoga semua makhluk berbahagia, bebas dari penderitaan jasmani dan mental, memiliki sebab-sebab kebahagiaan dan dapat mempertahankan kebahagiaannya sendiri. Tadiyata Om Gate-Gate para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Tadiyata Om Gate-Gate para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Tadiyata Om Gate-Gate para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Sadu, sadu, sadu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Kak Fania yang telah memimpin doa. Semoga saudara-saudara kita di Indonesia ataupun di seluruh dunia senantiasa diberikan kedamaian, ketenangan, dan ketentraman tentunya. Baik, untuk acara selanjutnya yaitu sambutan dari Kak Gugun Gumilar sebagai pendiri IDE Indonesia. Kepada Kak Gugun kami persilahkan.
Thank you, Nata. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum, shalom, and peace. Distinguished speakers, panelists, leaders, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin my speech, I would like to address to all the panelists and speakers. Firstly, Mr. Kieran, the Member of Parliament for EU. And the second one, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Hazel Chu, and Professor Nasaruddin Umar, and then Imam Bashar Arafat, and then Adil, Naida Softić, Waziha, Ayanna, and the last, our honorable speaker, Senator Saud Anwar from the United States. Welcome to the Future Leader Global Summit 2020. Empowering young global leaders, global leadership, and peace for the 21st century. First of all, we are the Institute of Democracy and Education. It's a youth NGO mainly focused on youth empowering and focusing on the themes of democracy, education, leadership, human rights, and promoting SDGs in Indonesia and around the world. So I founded this NGO in Washington, D.C. when I studied in United States with Indonesian friends. In Indonesia, we have more than 100,000 volunteers that working on the youth, and we have been working together with international institutions, government, multilateral institutions, and international NGO around the world. So for the past 6 years. And our problem today, young leaders face the challenges due to speeds, technology, social, and economic challenge. So these forums is to design to prepare young global leaders to expand their knowledge base in order to better address some of the most pressing global problems. So the forum seeks to empower young global leaders with the deepening understanding of global leadership issues in conjunction with technological, social, and peace skills. I hope you will get more deeply about the major issues facing future generations and obtain the leadership skills necessary to effect significant change. So I hope you enjoy the discussion today. I know there's a lot of speakers today joining us today. I don't want to take much time for speech. So thank you so much for all the participants and all the panelists. Enjoy the discussions and have a great day. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Kak Gugun yang telah menyampaikan sambutannya. Semoga Kak Gugun di sana di Dublin senantiasa diberikan kesehatan dan kelancaran dalam segala urusan. Baik, untuk acara selanjutnya yaitu acara inti. Acara inti ini akan dipimpin oleh moderator kita yaitu Kak Kemala Fabrian. Beliau seorang finalis dari Abang None Jakarta 2016, kemudian Tourism Ambassador of Jakarta. Dan saat ini beliau kerja di Mining Industry Holding, kemudian beliau juga lulusan terbaik Universitas Indonesia pada tahun 2016, dan tentunya MC profesional. Saat ini beliau juga bekerja di Eksekutif Asisten Wakil Menteri BUMN Indonesia. Kepada Kak Kemala Fabrian, kami berikan.
Baik, terima kasih Nata atas introduksinya dan juga selamat datang kepada seluruh peserta yang sudah bergabung ya, kepada seluruh teman-teman. I would like to also use English from now on, starting from now, because the main event of this, is currently going on. So I will be switching from Bahasa Indonesia to English. So I would like to apologize beforehand to my Indonesian friends. Everyone, welcome to the Future Global Leaders Forum 2020. It is such an honor for me to be the moderator for this event, standing amongst 9 amazing speakers, and I will be sure to pick their brains out. Ladies and gentlemen, and also everyone here, friends, I will list down the names of all the speakers here. It is such an honor once again. So standing with us tonight or today afternoon, depending on which part of the earth you're in right now. Personally, I'm in Jakarta, Indonesia, so it's evening time right now, but I'm sure a lot of you are tuning in from different parts of the world, and it may be morning, it may be afternoon. And I would also like to convey our gratitude from IDE Indonesia that you guys are very enthusiastic in joining, in making time and joining this event. So today there will be speakers. Actually, there will be 9 speakers. I will list down. I will mention the names. There will be Her Excellency Hazel Chu, Lord Mayor of Dublin, Dr. Saud Anwar, Professor K.H. Nasaruddin Umar, Imam Mohammad Bashar Arafat, Ayanna Jihebun, Adil Zeb, Mr. Kieran Kafi, Naida Softić, Annalik Mui, and also, last but not least, Waziha Raquib. So without further ado, let us start by hearing the speech of Her Excellency Hazel Chu. But before that, of course, I will introduce a little bit about Her Excellency Hazel Chu. So Her Excellency Hazel Chu is an Irish politician who sits on Lord Mayor of Dublin and is a Green Party councillor and chairperson of the Green Party. She was the first Irish-born person of Chinese descent elected to a political office in the Republic of Ireland. Her Excellency Chu studied politics and history at University College Dublin. So Her Excellency Hazel Chu, the time and place is yours. I would like to call upon once again Her Excellency Hazel Chu. Are you present?
Maybe she's not coming yet, so we will open to the second speakers.
Not yet? Okay, we will go ahead with the second speaker. We have with us Dr. Saud Anwar. So Dr. Saud Anwar is a Connecticut State Senator in the United States of America, Deputy President, Pro Tem Senate, a hero American doctor that takes on ventilator shortage, Mayor of South Windsor from 2013 to 2015, a South Windsor Town Council since 2011 to 2012, and he also earned his MPH, MD from Yale University, United States. Dr. Saud Anwar, the time and place is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. May peace be on to you all. I wanted to start by thanking the Institute of Democracy and Education, IDE Indonesia, for inviting me to speak at this important conference. Your work in empowering the young global leaders and the global leadership in peace for the 21st century is so much needed at this time. Taman-taman sayadi apa kibar. Sawatu kaha matun bagi ku untu. Bara da desi nihari aini. Saya mumba wapas sun. Pata man Amerika. Terima kasih. My dear friend Gugan, thank you so much for having me here today. And also my friends from Indonesia and beyond. Terima kasih. So, in these challenging times, I can understand the level of concern and anxiety our youth would be having with the current pandemic and the aftermath of this pandemic, which has impacted the lives of so many people. Each and every one know people who have died, the ones who have been ill, the ones who have lost their jobs and businesses, the economic downturn that we have seen. We are living in unprecedented times. We had never planned, never thought that we were going to be going through these challenges. But unprecedented times result and require unprecedented leadership. The resilience, the commitment, and the resolve that our youth have shown us across the world is inspiring. As technology has allowed us to learn about our challenges and our solutions, and our dependence on our science has also helped us on these challenges, we are far more linked than we have ever been in the history of mankind. The science has brought us together, our understanding has brought us together, our communication capacity, the fact that we are having this meeting in the way we are from across the planet tells us how united and equal and close we are. This comes with a responsibility. This comes with a commitment. Here are some of my thoughts as you enter your next phase of becoming part of the solution for your homes, for our home, this world, this planet. We need to develop a clear vision and commitment that we as humans are one people, recognizing that the planet Earth and this planet is our only home, and then we have a collective responsibility to protect it and make sure that we leave it better than we found it. This is what we are supposed to do, to find the place and make it better. We found it for the next generations. We want to help make sure the next generation doesn't have more challenges. In every challenge that comes our way, there's a way to address this, either by staying united or being divided. Well, unity is far better way and is the path of the perfect examples that we have had in our lives, in our history, in our faith. And we have to follow the perfect examples throughout the history. Connecting and committing with advances in technology is going to be very effective and useful. Entrepreneurship, science, understanding, physicians, clinicians, scientists, and we have to find out the solutions in this global marketplace. Having strong faith and being rooted in your commitment to loving fellow human beings. People staying committed to humanity is also going to be important. We have to recognize that we have to take care of our future, our collective future. One of the challenges that I think that the youth need to know is that you're going to have far more challenges than we have experienced in our lifetimes. Unfortunately, you will have to deal with the climate change like no one else has in the history of mankind. You will also have leaders who are going to create wars in this world, and that is going to make it very challenging. And nations who are going to try to become stronger and more powerful by hurting others. We need to recognize that unfortunate reality. There will be more natural and man-made disaster. There will be scientific disasters with artificial intelligence taking a wrong turn and taking jobs away from people and having more problems. We have to be conscious of that. These are some of those. But the good news is I know for a fact that you are fully capable of addressing each and every one of these issues. Change starts with your internal in the inside of us, and change starts by understanding the challenges that are ahead of us, and that change can go from changing us from the inside and spreading out to others in our own communities, in our own places. Make your home the most beautiful home. Be successful in your personal lives. Be successful and make sure you take your fellow people next to you to the success. And your responsibility is to make each and every person around you to help out and then address and understand these challenges, because we will need your leadership in future. Again, thank you IDE for your leadership and in having me speak. It is truly an honor for me. Thank you for this opportunity. Terima kasih. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next, our speaker, our second speaker now is Kieran, who is an Irish politician who has been a member of the European Parliament from Ireland for the Dublin constituency since July 2019. He also previously served as Minister of State for Horticulture, Sustainable Travel, Planning and Heritage from 2010 to 2011. So I would like to welcome Kieran, everybody.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good to be with you today and to have an audience in Indonesia and in Ireland. And my thanks to Katie Mallon from the Dublin Law and Politics Review for making this happen. I want to start by talking about the similarities between Ireland and EU countries and Indonesia. Indonesia has a multi-party political system. So does Ireland and most countries in Europe. Indonesia has fantastic diversity, Javanese, Sudanese, Malay, and even on this island of Ireland, we have huge diversity as well. Your country is fragmented in terms of geography, as is Europe and indeed Ireland. Indonesia was colonized, and so was Ireland. And as we know, many of our colleagues in the European Union were the colonizers of other countries, the Dutch, the French, the Portuguese, and Spain. But I want to argue today that the European Union is a peace project, and there are many lessons that we can learn from the European Union in looking at the challenges that we face. A little bit of history. After the Second World War, the European Union was made from the ashes of that tragedy. In 1952, 6 countries became the European Coal and Steel Community. A few years later, under the Treaty of Rome, the European Economic Community was established. And Ireland, along with the UK and Denmark, joined in 1973. And of course, since then, we've seen many other countries joining. One country, of course, has left, the UK, but I'll talk about that later. But we've had new treaties over the years, Maastricht, Amsterdam, Nice, and Lisbon, that brought the member states closer together. And in its origins, the European Union was constructed as a peace project. The idea was to introduce strategic common management of the materials like coal and steel, which the major powers had been using for war, and then using that for peaceful purposes. And to that end, it has been a success. A few years ago, in 2012, the European Union won the Nobel Peace Prize for 6 decades of contributing to the advancement of peace and reconciliation, democracy, and human rights in Europe. But we cannot be complacent. Our challenges are now global. In the 20th century, opening up trade opportunities, breaking down trade barriers was the challenge that we had in the last century. It was about breaking down barriers and a belief that there was no boundaries to the progress of civilization. The atom, let's split it. The moon, let's put a man on it. Diseases, we can vaccinate. Global conflict, democracy will sort that out. But maybe it's not so easy anymore. And perhaps we need to have a touch of humility in what we do. And the challenges that we face, they are social, they are economic, and they are environmental. Economic differences are fueling conflict and terrorism. Social barriers are fueling division, and environmental pollution knows no boundaries. And I believe that the major challenges of today, migration, climate change, pollution, inequality, they're not bounded by the colors on a map. They transcend political divides. So we need to work globally within the global institutions to find a common ground. As we look at Europe, it is hugely important that we work together in the cause of peace. It's hugely important that we find a cure for coronavirus. It's hugely important that we find the way of tackling climate change. And I'm worried. I see an increase in military spending in Europe. I see a divergence between the very wealthy and the very, very poor. I see a lack of willingness to tackle climate change. And I see a polarization in the United States with Trump, in the UK with Boris Johnson, and elsewhere. So we need to come back and find that common ground. In conclusion, however, I am hopeful. I think there is cause for hope. I think the results of the US presidential election means that a new president will sign up to global action on climate change. And the new president is looking for a middle way once again that will bring people together. On Brexit, I think we will find a deal between the UK and the European Union. We can even give them some fish. So I think we'll find a solution there. I'm also heartened that people recognize that leaving migrant children on a Greek island is wrong, and we do need to change those rules. I'm heartened that global leaders recognize that we have to take action on climate, even if they're not prepared to tackle it with the urgency it deserves. I'm heartened that young people have taken up the cause of fighting for their future on climate change. Inspirational people like Greta Thunberg are showing us what is needed. So in conclusion, I'm hopeful, and more than anything, it is young people that give me hope, because in a global village, they find friendship, they find opportunities, and they find possibilities across borders that we could only have dreamt of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kieran Kafi, Mr. Kieran Kafi. That was amazing, and I couldn't agree more with you said that depend on the younger generation, because we are going to, we are going to grow even further, and will someday be in your place, leading this world into a better place. Thank you so much, Mr. Kieran Kafi. And next, for our next speaker, I will be calling upon Mr. Imam Muhammad Bashar Arafat. He who is a founder and president of Civilizations Exchange and Cooperation Foundation, Washington, D.C., USA. This nonprofit organization functions as an umbrella to bring people together for exchanges and focus on creating a better world that promotes peace, respect, and cooperation. So to Mr. Imam Muhammad Bashar Arafat, I would like to call on you. Could you unmute and share your video?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we could. Okay, the time and place is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May the peace and blessings of Almighty be with all of you. I would like to, first of all, thank my dear brother Gugun for his valuable invitation. And I would like really to congratulate everybody who is working on the Institute of Democracy and Education, IDE, to make it as a global movement. So terima kasih for that, and for everybody who has contributed to these amazing blessings from Almighty. I'm here in the Baltimore, Washington area. I had the pleasure and the honor to meet my dear brother Gugun several times when he was studying here in the US. For me, I just would like to mention that I came from Syria almost 30 years ago to the United States, and I was Imam in Syria, and I was Imam in the US when I first came. But I just would like to use my 10 minutes to elaborate on something extremely important, and that is the leadership within the religious institutions to become global. And one of the challenges that we are facing today, that most of the religious institutions graduate local imams, but not global imams. And in our Quran, we read in the first chapter, and the first word start with this: Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the world. So the mission of the last prophet was bringing peace, tranquility, harmony, collaboration to the entire al-alameen, to the entire family of Adam and Eve, to the entire humanity. And that's where we have to read our sacred texts with the intention of developing these understandings and moving always forward. In our history, the Prophet lived in Mecca, and when he migrated to Medina, he changed a lot of things. And this is what I would like just to talk about my own experience being in America, in a society that I have seen also it's developing. And the last thing I can share with you is the amazing change that we are living in right now here in the United States. And to me, what is worse than Corona and what is worse than that virus is the virus of ignorance that produce hate and that produce demonizing the other. And that's where it is our responsibility as clergy, and I'm speaking as an imam, to understand how we can de-escalate that kind of ignorance by creating programs and being pioneers in creating programs and leading that kind of change within the institutions of the clergy within the Muslim world. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country, and I have been in communication with the Indonesian embassy just even last week. And we are intending to bring these kind of leadership development programs for Indonesia to be the center for Southeast Asia in order to share our experience as imams in the United States who are interacting with the rest of the society. We are, as you know, between 8 to 10 million Muslims living in America. It depends on who is counting. But it is our responsibility also to understand the concept of leadership within the religious institutions. And that's where, for me, as somebody who is living next to 176 embassies from around the world, I have a responsibility. for me, as somebody who is close from so many institutions that make an impact in Europe on climate change, make an impact in Africa, make an impact in Southeast Asia, I have responsibility. So to me, Imam is not only the one who lead the prayers and conduct religious services, but also the one who share with the rest of humanity the meaning of the chapter that is called Al-Hadid, Surah Al-Hadid, the chapter that's called the iron, the meanings of the chapter that is called Al-Baqarah, the cow, and why God called it the cow, and he didn't call it the sheep or the camel. So to me, I have to share with the humanity why God called this chapter a Rome, Romans, which is Europe today, as if God is talking about this migration and the refugees that are flooding the streets of Europe these days. So there are so many verses in the Quran. In a leadership perspective, I have to read my text in order to share constantly with humanity that being a religious person means being a pioneer in leading economical change, societal change, religious change also, because the word of God is really based on peace and love your neighbor, and peace and loving yourself and loving your Lord and loving everything that he reveals. So in that perspective, I really would like to emphasize on the importance of developing our curriculums and leading the change. And that's what I'm doing here in the United States, creating these programs for religious leaders to understand the concept of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, praise be to God, Lord of the world. But I cannot communicate with others who do not know me, and I do not know them. And this is one of the biggest obstacles I have seen communicating with different religious institutions outside the United States. And now also when I reach out to Christian religious institutions, I see sometimes, and some of them, they have the same problems that the Muslims have, because graduating from different seminaries did not have also a lot of subjects introducing Muslims to them. So I find myself here in America in a very, very interesting position to reach out to Muslims in other Muslim countries, as well as to reach out to different seminaries here in the United States. And that's where I'm so happy to have this MOU now about to be signed with Harvard Seminary in order to participate in these programs. And the last point I would like to mention here, to me, we have to train these leaders, if they were blessed with wonderful programs, now how to design it as curriculums and share it with the youth in other countries. So I would really emphasize here on this importance of creating these international development programs that is open for clergy from other countries to come and see the experience that the Muslims had in America, as well as in Europe, in order to share it with other institutions in Africa and in Asia. And this is our responsibility today. And that's why I'm so happy to work with Institute of Democracy and Education, because I have seen almost this kind of vision from the moment of inception of this institution. And I had the pleasure and the honor working with my brother in Indonesia, I think when he started the IDE. So in that regard, I would like to also share with you the importance of collaboration. And we were delighted to have Brother Gugun visiting our conference in Orlando. But if he visited our conference in Baltimore, he would see way more of this youth. But now again, we have to train these religious leaders how to connect the dots between different programs that has been already done and programs that could be done in the future. And that is the jurisprudence of alumni connection. And that's another topic. I hope I will talk about that during my Q&A session. And again, thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm honored and delighted to speak with all the panelists here.
Thank you so much, sir, for your speech just now. And we were very definitely inspired from your speech. And ladies and gentlemen, and also friends, next for our next speaker, Her Excellency Hazel Chu is now present with us. And I will read once again about her short biography. Her Excellency Hazel Chu is an Irish politician who sits on Lord Mayor of Dublin and is a Green Party councillor and chairperson of the Green Party. She was the first Irish-born person of Chinese descent elected to a political office in the Republic of Ireland. Her Excellency Chu studied politics and history at University College Dublin. Her Excellency Hazel Chu, the time and place is yours.
Thank you, Kamala. Hazel is just fine, don't worry. So we skip the excellency part. Not quite used to it. It's great to see my colleague, MEP Kieran actually speaking. He's a dear friend and colleague and has been actually great in terms of my political career and the party here in general of the Greens, and he's gotten us very far. So hi, Kieran, and hi, everyone else. So it was great to hear the other speakers as well. I'm Hazel. I am from Dublin. My parents are from Hong Kong and they emigrated here to Ireland 45 years ago. So I would have not always been from a political background. And I think this is why it's good to feed into this conversation on how we empower people, and especially young people like yourselves. I think Kieran touched on how we have to get young people engaged, and it's good to see young people engaged, but the very fact is you're all engaged as it is. So like I every Zoom call that I do these days, the majority of the panels seem to be of people of an age that I wish I still was. So and unfortunately I am much older, and it comes down to the very fact that it is your world and your planet, and it's great to see everyone involved in looking after it. And this is the thing, I've been to the climate rallies where hundreds and thousands turn up, and it's mainly young people. I've been to Black Lives Matter rally where it's led by young people, and every single cause that we've had in Ireland, from repeal of the 8th Amendment for abortion rights to gay rights referendum, has been led by young people. And this is why when the topic of how do we empower young people, I don't think it's the right question. I think it's you're already empowered, and how do we keep it going? So, and it is the case that every politician will tell you that at some point or another, they were driven by some cause and at some stage of their lives, probably a lot younger in their lives, that got them to this point. I myself definitely was. I as I said, I came from a very odd kind of different background to most people I know getting into politics. My parents would have come here in the 70s, and they met over here in Ireland. It's funny, they managed to meet here, they got married here, and then they had me. And I don't know about the rest of you, but when you have Asian parents, there are only two things they want you to be: a doctor or a lawyer. So, and it's very much, those are the two things that you should be now. And so all my life, even though my mum was a dishwasher and a cleaner working two jobs, and my dad was a kitchen porter, they saved, and they saved to try to make sure that their daughter was a lawyer or a doctor, because in their mind that was what would qualify as a good job to them. So throughout then my childhood was aiming to when I a lawyer. So when I went through college, I studied law after studying politics and history. And when I was younger, there was absolutely no talk of politics, because when you are parents that are trying to put food on the table and trying to struggle by, politics is the last thing you think of. And this comes to the class issue that Kieran touched on and other speakers touched on. When you have a polarized world where you have one section of society that is struggling to make sure that they can get by on their everyday lives and get food on the table, politics is very very far away. But we need people in politics that come from different backgrounds. We need people who are suffering to be at the table to make those decisions. So in my case, my parents sent me to college. I then came out the other end realizing I owed a lot of school fees or college fees or university fees, as you call it. And I couldn't go and practice law. I couldn't go and be a lawyer. So I went back to work. I worked in non-profits, and I worked for different companies trying to scrimp and save so I can go back and practice. And then my best friend passed away. So that was a kind of an eye-opening experience for me. And this is the thing, when we talk about empowerment, I like to talk about how we empower young people in terms of politics and policy, but also in terms of overall life in general. When I look at my child who's only 3, and I have people who already say to me, oh, what do you think she'll be when she grows up? I always go, well, she can be whatever she wants to be. So, and the thing is, it's different paths. Like I had a built path that people kept on telling me that I should be a lawyer, whereas after my best friend passed away, I went traveling. I taught in a voluntary school in China. I took some time out and I came back and I ended up working in a different space altogether. I worked in crisis management. I worked in communications, and I worked in a space where I was very good at fixing stuff. And that was what brought me to the political career, because I realized that in politics, what we're all trying to do is we're trying to fix something. So whatever our activism, whatever our project is, whatever we're fighting for, be it climate justice, be it social justice, be it economic justice, it's a problem we're trying to fix. So that's why I ended up where I am, because I suddenly realized, well, I'm very good at fixing stuff, and there's different things I need to fix in Dublin, in Ireland in general, and the other people didn't see anyone that looked like me, and so that drove me to want to change that. Like, there's a saying that Kamala Harris says these days a lot, and I remember my mum saying it, and her mum saying it, which is, you can't be what you can't see. So unless we are able to see diversity and able to see people of different color, religion, gender, sexuality right up there in front of us taking on these positions, it's really hard to empower the next generation to do so. So when we talk about empowerment and how we encourage the next generation like yourselves, we have to be able to run candidates, we have to be able to get people involved, to put people up there front and center that look different. Like, it's a simple equation. People always say, oh, well, you have people who champion those calls, who champion diversities. No. So, like, unless you have looked in the mirror at any given stage and wish you were different because you have been taunted for your skin color, or taunted for your religion, or taunted for your sexuality, you are not going to be able to fight those causes as much. And this is why we need people of diversity in those positions. And this is why it's great to see this forum and this group of diverse young people to take up the challenge. So this is why I entered. This is why I still push for it, and it's why every day I bang on about how we need more. And every day I keep going, I get told, well, yeah, we have X, Y, and Z who's of this minority background or this, but when you look at the percentages, the stats don't lie. In Ireland on its own, gender-wise, we have 21% in the Dáil, which is the main governing body. That is 21% women. And out of that 21% women, there is 0 minority. So then we have the Seanad, which is 30% women. And luckily for us, we have recently a woman from a traveling community background that is there. So we have one person of 30% women at the moment there. Then we look at the councillors, which is the local authority of Ireland, and that's 950 odd 54 councillors, and among that is 22% women. And out of the 22% women, I think there's about 10 people from diverse minority backgrounds. And this is Ireland as a whole, which to me is not good enough. And then I look at different countries, and again, you have that issue. And we talk about polarization of politics, and people go, well, there's too much of a gap, there's left and right. Your left and rights are formed because there's not enough of a conversation going on about general. And to have that conversation and compromise, you need people of every background at the table to talk about that conversation, to push it back to a middle ground, to talk about what is right and what we need. So across the board, and not just on the left and the right. So for me, it's very simple. To empower young people, I want to make sure that there's more people that look like everyone at the table, to make sure that we don't have such a polarized society and polarized politics. Again, we need diversity and have open conversations to challenge what is wrong and to try to adopt what's right. And then the last thing is, very simply, engagement, that we need to have ongoing engagements about what we need to do in this world and act quickly. Like, we've been talking about climate justice for decades now, yet still each country we look at various accords and agreements, and I'm really glad that the US is going to be back to the Paris Agreement. But this is the thing, every one step we take, we seem to take 5 steps backwards. And this is why I hope the group here, and I challenge the group here with all the next generation of people and around the world, that we have to do better. We have to act quicker when it comes to climate justice, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to economic justice. We need to push and push it now. The time is now. There will be a no take two when it comes to how we run things. So again, that wraps up my speech. It's probably a bit long, sorry, and a bit of a tangent, but it was lovely to meet everyone.
Thank you so much, Hazel. That wasn't long at all. Like, we hope to hear more from you, but I'm sure you have other things to do. And if I'm not mistaken, Hazel, you have another agenda after this, is that correct? Okay, so everyone, friends, ladies, gentlemen, and friends, let us give a round of applause in the chat room to Hazel here. And of course, bid goodbye, bid farewell to Hazel, because she'll be going away and she will be having another agenda. Thank you so much, Hazel, once again for your time. And the speech was excellent. It was inspiring. Good luck to you. Good luck in everything you do.
Thank you, Kamala. I'm just going to put my details on the chat. So if anyone wants to email me, tweet me, or send me a message on Insta, please do. Thanks.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Hazel. Okay, friends, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next speaker. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who she is. She is a Korean model, actress, and SDGs activist. She is a convert who is currently well known among Muslims in Asia, especially in Indonesia and Malaysia. Her name is Ayanna Moon, so I'm sure you know Ayanna. And Ayanna is currently active in the entertainment world in Indonesia and Malaysia. And she's an inspiration to Muslims around the world. She has a book with the title Ayanna Journey to Islam, in which she tells the extraordinary journey of her life that inspired millions of people. So Ayanna, welcome. The time and place is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, it's really nice to meet you all. Now,
okay, I think we lost your
does
video a little bit. It's
does
working
it
now.
work now?
Right
Okay,
now,
okay.
we can hear you.
Okay.
We can. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Ayanna from Korea. I don't know whether all of you know me or not, but actually the moderator said I have extraordinary story, but actually not. I'm very ordinary person, and actually, before this, when I got offer from IDE Indonesia, uh, I didn't know what to actually share, and also there was no given or specific topic as well. So I thought even till just now, like, oh, what should I share? I mean, like, I'm not the one who can inspire other people. Actually, I'm very, very, very ordinary, and then I'm still even student, and then yeah, I'm not a mayor, I'm not a professor, so I'm gonna share very like daily things, like just ordinary activities during COVID era. Actually, perhaps we can say that it's so sad because of coronavirus. Everything seems to stop, and also in this challenging time, we cannot do any many activities, especially outside. But well, I try to see the positive side of coronavirus. Actually, it cannot be positive, but well, I think that we can make a chance to improve ourselves during coronavirus, because uh during coronavirus, does it work? Because I still can hear like some noise.
Some noise. Okay. I would like to
It's
ask
okay.
all the participants here to also mute your voice. Please, for those of you who are not muted, to also please mute your voice. But Ayanna, we can clearly hear you.
Okay, okay,
You can
okay.
continue.
Alhamdulillah. So anyway, I think that well, at first I was also quite sad because of coronavirus. I couldn't meet my friend, and then I couldn't do any event, and also yeah, all of my event also stopped and cancel as well. And at the same time, I decided to just go back to Korea, because in Indonesia and in Malaysia I couldn't do anything. So okay. Yeah. So after I go back to Korea, I just thought that how can I use this era, this unwelcoming holiday, use well. So after that, I decided to take Arabic course. So for more than 4 months, I learned Arabic for reading Quran, and also at the same time, I worked for the political party during general elections. So I also made some strategy for campaign and other things. And also at the same and also after I came back to Indonesia, I decided to make like a small yayasan, small foundation, because in Indonesia and in Malaysia, even I was not so extraordinary, or I was not so smart or special, but many people took care of me because I'm Korean Muslim, and also at the same time I didn't have family here and didn't have friends here. So after that, anyway, I became stable. I cannot say that I'm rich or I'm somebody, but actually, everything of mine became quite stable because of all of my friends have. So after that, I decided to pay back it. So I thought that how could I pay back well? And then at first, as the moderator mentioned, I published my first book, Ayanna Journey to Islam. I mean, like, yes, it's for us it's promotion, but actually don't worry, because all of profit from my book will be donated. Actually, every Ramadan, I always donate little of money and also food for people who in need. But I just thought that maybe if I make something which is more meaningful, then would be the great. So I decided to make my first book, Ayanna Journey to Islam. So if people buy my book, they will automatically join my donation program. Why? Because I donate all of profit from my book. Kinda. This one is also actually for like charity things. So after I published my first book, I really wanna make my own thing. Like I just call it so far Kajian Ayanna, but even it's just kajian, but it's not only about religious thing. It's about volunteering and also empowering each other, and also as I'm interested in SDGs, I start to import my kajian Ayanna to SDGs. SDGs is not only about climate or environment is also about education, gender equality kind of things. So through Kajian Ayanna, perhaps I can do maybe event, or I can also earn money from Kajian Ayanna. But what I can guarantee and what I can promise is all of the profit to Kajian Ayanna will be also donated, kind of thing. But everything, perhaps people think that I'm planning too many things, but actually all the things what I did or what I'm doing during coronavirus, actually it's not so big or difficult thing. But I just try to do what actually Islam teaches us, and then Alhamdulillah it's going well. So, well, actually I don't know what I really have to share, because I'm sure that all of audience now who are watching me are already smart and also already wanna think of our world and also future and everything. That's why I think you are making time for watching me and other speakers, and then hearing me and other speakers as well. So I think, well, as I'm not a mayor or a professor or other somebody, it's weird if I just want to teach us and then share some professional knowledge. So I just want to share my daily activities like Kajian Ayanna and my book and kind of thing. I mean, like, what I really want to say through this program from IDE Indonesia is, even though I'm not special, I'm very ordinary woman. Even here, I don't have family, I don't have Korean friend, and I'm actually alone. Alhamdulillah, I have many friends who help me, but anyway, I'm alone. But Alhamdulillah, I'm doing something, not too many things, but something step by step, even though I'm very, very ordinary. So what I want to say is, you also can do. And also it's not so difficult. If you can think, then actually you can make it. And also these days, because of coronavirus, I know that many people lost job, and also they are in, many people in need, and also maybe there are many big concern and small concern and worries as well, because the coronavirus was so unpredictable. But what I want to say is, even though we cannot see it in positive way, anyway we can make this challenging time can be the chance to live to the future, and also to improve ourselves. That's what I want to say. And thank you for having me today, IDE Indonesia.
Thank you so much, Ayanna, for sharing. It really doesn't matter for us whether like all of us here would like to be inspired by literally everyone. So it doesn't matter if they're not from the government section, maybe from a like a religious sector, or they can be anyone, as long as we as youth inspire each other and also get inspired by other people. We just need that spirit, especially during this hard COVID times. So thank you so much once again for your speech, Ayanna. Moving on next to our next speaker, who is an interfaith scholar and TEDx speaker. Previously served as the Muslim chaplain at Muslim Chaplain, Director of Muslim Life at Duke University, Wesleyan University, Trinity College, and American University. He is a graduate of the Masters in Islamic Chaplaincy program at Hartford Seminary, and he has held a bachelor's degree in business administration from Baylor University, as well as a bachelor's of science degree in Islamic studies from Aris University in traditional Islamic science. So let us welcome our next speaker, Adil Zeb.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. My name is Adeel. I'm happy to be here. Thank you to all of the organizers for the event today, for helping out, and all of the behind the scenes work that happens, Google and Kamala, Naida and IDE Indonesia in general. If everyone could please do me a quick favor and just type in one word in the chat that comes to mind when you think of the word leadership. So if you can type in the chat one word that comes to mind when you think of the word leadership. Okay. And those will be coming in, inshallah. But some of them are passion, wise, dominant. Some protects, engaged in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, wise, uniting, good, responsible, caring, skill. So a lot of these are kind of coming in. And they'll be coming in, inshallah, as the talk kind of goes on. And please kind of pay attention to those and what your fellow colleagues are saying, right? So I wanted to, inshallah, today talk about 3 different central components of leadership. And first one is self-development. The second one is strategic development. And the third one is spiritual development, okay? So in the beginning, self-development. Why is self-development important, okay? Because if you're not internally a good leader, then you're not going to be able to be externally a good leader, right? Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayhi, he taught us that our internal and our external should be in sync, right? So we want to be able to meditate. The Prophet ﷺ, he was someone who used to go to the cave al-Hira and he would meditate there before he received the first wahi or revelation of Quran. We also have the tradition of journaling, right? To take some time every day to journal your thoughts, right? Even have a shukr journal where you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that we have in our lives, okay? To think about our weaknesses, right? And our growing edges and see how can we turn these into our strengths. To have emotional regulation, right? And emotional intelligence. To think, how can I respond to the situation with emotional intelligence, not just intellectual intelligence, right? But emotional intelligence as well. Let's see, okay, here I am, and I'm gonna see what is the proper emotional response to what's happening around me. Many times people in leadership make many mistakes because they don't understand the emotions of the people around them. They're thinking too much with the brain, with the cognitive part of the brain, but not with the amygdala, with the part of the brain that is working to see what are the emotions that are happening. What is this heart? What is the spirit of the moment? And you can lose a lot of your followers if you don't have strong emotional intelligence. So try to find resources that will help you develop that as well. And inner peace. Inner peace is so important. The more, this is kind of a weird example, but you can't vomit the food you don't have, right? So if you're inside, if you have bad feelings towards others, if you have toxicity, if you have anger, if you have all of these things towards other people, that's going to come out of your mouth, right? So the more inner peace that we have, the more that we'll be able to be positive in our leadership skills as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Isra, which is the 17th surah and the 70th ayah, the night journey surah, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that he has honored the children of Adam, okay? So all of you are children of Adam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed a strong honor inside each and every one of you. Regardless of what you do for a living, regardless of what your family lineage is, regardless of what your faith, identity is and becomes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored you, okay? So you want to take that and really own this, own that you are honored by God, okay? And there is an honor that comes with being a Muslim as well. For those of us who are Muslim on the call, many times we come from countries or histories that we have been colonized by other people, and we kind of look and aspire to be like other nations or other traditions and religions. I want to respect that, but the good parts of that, but at the same time, I want to say that, emphasize that being a Muslim, following Islam is an honor, and God chose you to be Muslim and to take that honor with you. Okay. Now, what's also very important to mention was that Nelson Mandela, who was the first president of color in South Africa, who worked to end the apartheid in South Africa, he said that you are one You are one, I am one, he is one, she is one, but together, and we are weak, but together we are strong, right? He made a fist like this. And when he was jailed for so much of his life and suffered so much of his life, but eventually came out of jail and he was president of South Africa, he said, I suffered so much more than any of you. So I forgave them, so you all forgive them too. So that unity and forgiveness are very, very important components of being a strong leader. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God the Almighty, the Exalted, gives each and every one of us strengths. Okay, we all have strengths in that we can. Some people are really good at math. Some are good at, as we're seeing moderators today, speakers, politicians. People have their own skill sets. So how do you develop the skill sets that God has given you and utilize them? According to Gallup, a very prominent research company, if someone is good at something, they have to have three things. Number one, they need to have talent. They need to have, number two, work ethic, meaning like they work hard at it, and they need to have passion for what they do, right? So it's very important to kind of internalize these three components. Okay, the second main point is strategic development, right? Try to find some ways to take business classes, trainings in your field, get advanced degrees if you have the opportunity to do so. Networking. I can't tell you how many of my jobs and people that I know's jobs come from networking, meeting people in those fields, building bridges, building connections. If you're looking for some trainings in this, you can go to the United States Institute for Peace, USIP, and they have free trainings online in these different fields, okay? And the final one I wanted to mention was spiritual development, right? Coming closer to God, coming closer to your spirituality, reading Quran, studying the religion, being a community servant, doing charity, doing good deeds. Don't underestimate the power and the blessing of ultimately doing even one good deed and how much it will build upon the other, right? Build bridges with Muslims and non-Muslims both. Work locally, work nationally, work internationally. Utilize your strengths. Look how many people are on the call today from different countries and time zones and places. There are two good series I recommend that are available online. They should be in high definition format with Arabic Fusha and English subtitles. One is the Umar series, and the other second one is the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal series. So please look those two series up, and you'll see of our pious predecessors how they embodied good leadership. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Yusuf, in the 12th Surah, 55th ayah, quoting the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, قَالَ اجْعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ إِنِّي حَفِيظٌ عَلِيمٌ, where Yusuf alayhi salam, the Prophet Joseph said, to place me in charge of the treasuries of the land, I am a good keeper and know my task well, right? So it's very important for us to know that Prophet Joseph, he was qualified, and he said, I want to be the leader, right? So if you're qualified, then go with the name of God, Bismillah, and try to be a strong leader in your community, right? And you will find that if you do good work, if you're passionate, confident, qualified, and work hard, people will even nominate you for leadership. And then God will decree it if it's good, inshallah, if it's good for you, right? Want to be a good person, help people, have that inner peace, and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every decision you make, remember to, at least the major ones, pray istikhara, pray that prayer of guidance that you can find online. You type in istikhara Bukhari, it'll pull up on your Google search. And think about, and make consultation with those who are professionals and those who you trust in those fields. And think about, is this decision good for this life and the next life? I'm going to repeat this last point a couple of times. Every decision you make, try to think, is this good for this life and in the next life simultaneously? Okay, this is one of the best advices I can give you for leadership, inshallah. I'll close with this, inshallah, but I am on social media. My handle is on my name on top, at Adeel J Zeb. Let's please keep the conversation going. Please message me any questions in the future, any leadership tips. I do post regularly on leadership and spiritual leadership. So inshallah, thank you so much for your time. Once again, for the attendees and for the moderators and organizers and speakers and panelists, may Allah bless all of you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much, Adeel, for your speech. Moving on to our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, let us hear from Naida Softić. And Naida Softić here is a researcher and human rights activist from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, a junior teaching assistant in international criminal law and constitutional law at the University of Sarajevo, head of policy and research, Regional Development Association in Bosnia and Herzegovina, project and research coordinator in addressing COVID-19 challenges within the migrant and refugee response in the Western Balkans Danish Refugee Council. So everyone, let us welcome Naida Softić.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. When I was thinking of what should I speak of today, I actually had a completely different idea in my mind. But now, hearing the other speakers, one thing came to my mind, and it's I guess very important when you think about leadership, and that is the fact that the leadership comes from something that's deeply personal for you and that you're deeply involved with. And that's how my professional and also personal development started within this constitutional law. When I start introducing myself, I always say that I was born in Yugoslavia. As I was growing up, the war broke in Yugoslavia between the countries that built the federation, and then I lived in Sarajevo during the siege of Sarajevo, which was the longest siege in modern history of warfare. And this legacy of growing up during the conflict and in a post-conflict times, and in a country that is deeply divided by ethnic tensions, and being immersed in these historical processes was something that I've tried to distance myself for a very, very long time. It took a great deal of time and self-discovery to understand that and accept it as something that shaped me both personally and professionally, and learn how to cherish the way this legacy has wired me. It kind of made the multi-potentiality my superpower. Therefore, knowing that now to present myself, I'm a lawyer, I'm a social entrepreneur, an activist. I have a particular interest in the interplay between law, politics, and social identities. Over the last few years, I've ventured back between the worlds of commercial and nonprofit and academia. I worked on the structural reforms in Southeastern Europe. I helped marginalized groups, taught international criminal law, and worked with media. To some, it might seem that I lack focus. However, with a lot of complex and multidimensional problems in the world right now, I truly believe that we need a creative, out-of-the-box thinkers to tackle them. Having said that, I don't think it's for a leader, it's important to be an expert in anything, but rather you should have a range, and you should be able to morph and adapt easily into new situations. So if we talk about leadership from me and from my personal experiences and then professional experiences, it's always the question of things that are deeply personal to you, the things that you, the creative out-of-the-box thinking process, and the way you adapt to new situations. My interest in the relation of identity and citizenship was something that came naturally for me. Actually, ever since the young age, I've been engaged with numerous social movements and international organizations. However, it was not long until I started being genuinely passionate about the issue of interculturality and the way cultures produce particular social identities, and how those social identities actually create the path of leadership for you. So having said that, I believe that it is very important if you want to change the world, if you want to be a leader, it's very important to start from your own yard. And that it's a proverb we have here in the Balkans where I grew up. It says that if you want to change something, you should start from your own backyard. That's for me, very important things. So I think sometimes those smallest, the most at that point meaningless things can actually snowball into a huge effect. So I would like to encourage you to think out of the box, to start with small steps and change things around you, which would inspire others and which will eventually create a larger effect. I would also like to encourage you to enjoy the diverse cultural settings and mingle with people of different social backgrounds, ethnicities, skin colors, and religious, all of the different identities you will be surrounded with will not threaten your own. They will actually lead you to embrace your distinct identities of your own. And I'm talking about that from my personal experiences. People still put various...
Bahasa Inggris kabeh tengah di karena pas diajak bahasa Inggris.
Sorry, I can hear someone
Excuse me,
speaking.
For fellow participants, please mute your audio, because our speaker is currently on the session. Okay, we can hear you back. Okay, go on, Naida.
So as I said, don't be afraid of different identities around you and the way they shape you personally and professionally. They do not endanger your own in any way. In my own personal experiences, being surrounded by those different distinct identities made me embrace my own distinct identities. People still put various labels in me. I never subjectively subscribed to any of them. However, as a person of science, as a professor, and now from my own personal experience, I have to acknowledge the reality, and that's that the socially constructed identities bear a significant influence on how our worlds, our societies, our countries are governed. And the best way to start changing that is to start from the level of the personality, from your own, then to your family, to your friends, to your professional background. All of those events will eventually lead to will snowball into a greater effect. I always try not to strive for greatness, but to strive for those little micro local changes, and the results are always far better than I ever expected. The COVID-19 pandemic's actually changed the whole reality for us, and it actually taught us how we need to be more adaptable to the environment and circumstances. The COVID-19 outbreak actually encountered me in Czech Republic, working at the university there, and that's when I realized that yes, it's very important to contribute to the development of the university culture there. But what was more important for me personally was to contribute to my own country in that moment, to my own local community. So I came back to Bosnia. I took the position of the project and of the research coordinator in the Danish Refugee Council. I'm working with migrants. We have the largest migrant actually community in the Europe currently. We are somehow on the outskirts of Europe and we represent the last final step before entering the Europe. Being so now for several months, for around 6 months, surrounded by migrants and working with them, I had this rare privilege to witness how these issues of belonging and identification with the local communities make things complicated for migrants as they try to negotiate multiple identities and they feel threatened by the identities they encounter. But one thing that changed it for me was the moment when I started talking with them about the meaning and the value they assign to their goals, to this trip they took, rather than talking about it and about them. And it completely changes the imaginings of the situation and gives you this clear course of action. I would stop here. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them during the questions and answer session. And feel free to ask whatever you want. And once again, it was a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you, Naida. So guys, you heard what Naida had said. If you guys have any questions, our speakers are all here. So, keep your questions ready because we'll be starting the question answers soon. After two of our speakers have already spoken. So right now is actually the chance for Anneliek Moy. She is a PhD in Dublin City University School of Law and Government, Chair of Dublin Law and Politics Review in Dublin. Anne here has co-founded the platform and is now active as an editor. Anne also holds an LLB in Dutch jurisprudence and international and European law from Tilburg University, and has graduated cum laude in jurisprudence accent, private law, and constitutional, and laude in jurisprudence. Hold on a moment. Apologies. She graduated cum laude in jurisprudence accent, private law, and constitutional, and administrative law masters from Tilburg University. She is writing her PhD in the field of law at the School of Law and Government, Dublin City University. The topic of her dissertation is the mandate of European Central Bank post-Euro crisis. Next to her academic pursuits, Anne works as a legal counsel for a development company. So Anne, the time and place is yours.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, especially as I'm from the Netherlands. So it's a particular pleasure to be here at this Indonesian Institute. The Netherlands and Indonesia have not always had the best relationship in the past, but I'm very glad that we're moving towards a friendship relationship towards the future, because the future is not yet defined. We can choose the future, and that's the brilliant part about the future, that we actually have a choice, and we can choose for friendship, we can choose for peace over foes, over enemies, and over hatred. And I'm very glad that this platform is here, because it allows us to get to know each other, and it allows us to actually try and understand different points of view. Now, when it comes to leadership, it's very difficult to define it one way. And I think the most important part, at least for me, is a passion for your topic. So to be inspired. But inspiration is also difficult. So you also must have caution when you get inspired, caution to not fall into the trap of radicalization. Always remain passionate, but understand that other people can have a different point of view, and that this different point of view might be equally valid, because otherwise we start to divert and we become polarized rather than unified. Now, for me, my main passion actually started when I was doing my bachelor's. One of my professors said that a lot of laws and a lot of policies are actually based upon lobbying. and rather than academic research. Now, when it comes to my work in the Dublin Law and Politics Review, I motivate and I really try that there is more academic research, more academic communication to the larger audience, and that we start to base policies on interdisciplinary communication between biologists, economists, lawyers, so that we can actually try and reach for this perfect solution. But I'm also constantly reminded that this is not the only option to go. We can also become very much specialized and try to become more specialized in our fields. And this is also a very valid way to go. Now, for me, the main area that I'm passionate about is social economic justice. So how do we create social policy that is democratically responsible, but is also justice for everyone, where we have a world where everyone can have their basic income and actually provide for their families without going in want, without hunger, without starvation. And that's something that I'm the most passionate about. But for today's topic, I rather want to talk about what can make you a great leader. So what you can do on an individual level, because we've heard a lot about what great leaders have done and what a great leader should do. But think about it this way. When you think about what has impacted you recently, what has changed and motivated you, were these changes or these motivations, did they come from big leaders far away? Or were your impacts perhaps more local? And I'm thinking that most of us, the impact on our daily lives comes from local level. It comes from as simple as someone standing up for you in the bus because you have a sore foot, or someone cleaning up the neighborhood. That actually impacts our daily lives. And being a leader, in my opinion, is not per se looking for the spotlights, looking for the big change, but to accelerate change and to accelerate local change, to go out and organize a neighborhood cleanup, or to go out and organize a system where, especially during times of COVID, if someone is sick, where they can ask for help. And these changes, if we all become leaders in our own small communities, we'll actually find that it's a lot easier to change the world, because a lot of big leaders, they had their impact, but they didn't have as much impact as the local leaders, the people that organize local projects where we actually see the influence in our day-to-day lives. And when you start to change, when you try and make an impact, you'll find that there is more people who are willing to make that impact, who are actually going to stand beside you or stand behind you and say, hey, that's a great idea. I'd love to help with that. And even if you're unsure of how to go about it, so even if you don't really know how to approach something, the first step is just to reach out, to actually say, hey, listen, I want to change this. Does anyone have any ideas? Because the idea doesn't always come from the person who wants to change something. You don't have to know everything. Together, we can do a lot more. Together, we are a lot stronger. So there is no wrong and there's no bad thing about asking for help, to say, listen, I want to change this. How do we do that? Can someone help me? Does someone have an idea? And if we do that a lot more often, and especially at the local level, at our community level, we'll see that the world changes a lot more for the better. So leadership, if you want to find it in yourself, find out what you're passionate about, find out what exactly it is you want to change, and find out how you can change it at local level. Because a lot of our good actions actually have a lot more consequences than we think. A neighborhood cleanup. Research has suggested that actually when you clean up a neighborhood, it leads to a reduction in crime. A clean neighborhood will also ensure that less people will litter in the neighborhood because they don't accept it because the neighborhood is clean. So by simply cleaning up the neighborhood, you can actually contribute to a reduction in crime, to a better environment, to avoid plastics and waste actually ending up inside our environment. And by doing these little things, they have much more consequences and we can actually change the world. So don't be afraid. Find something that you're passionate about and actually ask others for help as well. What do you want to do and who can help you? Who can help you with ideas, with management, and with execution? And sometimes it's not just about the initiative, it's also supporting an initiative. The first one, if you're the only one, if you're a leader standing on your own, you're shouting in the desert. But the second person who actually joins that cause is also the true hero, because they change a single person shouting to an actually organized initiative, to something that's supported. So don't be afraid to actually go out, ask for help, or to support what you believe in, to be the number two and to support that action coming off the ground. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. That was very inspiring. And guys, keep your questions ready. Once again, I would like to repeat, first of all, mute your audio. And also second, keep your questions ready because we are moving towards our last speaker for today for this event. And she is Waziha Raquib. Waziha Raquib is a Bangladeshi youth activist and global youth ambassador of Theirworld, United Kingdom. She is a Bangladeshi based in Malaysia and is a data scientist in a fintech company. Additionally, she is a thematic focal point for SDG 8, which is entrepreneurship for the UN Major Group on Children and Youth, a global youth ambassador under Theirworld, founded by the former British Prime Minister and UN Secretary General Special Envoy on Education, Gordon Brown. So everyone, please welcome Waziha Raquib.
Thank you so much, Kamala, for the amazing introduction. And I would like to thank IDE and Brother Gugun for this amazing opportunity. Honestly speaking, I'm really moved by the speeches of every single speakers we have right now. And it's a pretty hard topic to put what makes you a great leader, because leadership and success is pretty relative. What is leadership to you might not be the same for someone else's case. So, and what is success to you might not be the same case for someone else. So I'd like to start this with my own experiences that I have faced. So my passion was from the start to be in a STEM field. So basically, either an engineering field or a data science field or something related to this. But then I was so confused from the start, and I didn't know how to start off my career, how to start off my journey. Over the years, I actually saw firsthand that how networking works and how people actually can leverage networking to get opportunity in future, or how you can find yourself through networking, because people are coming up with new ideas from time to time. So it's pretty important to know who to network to, how to network. So when I was very young, I started doing this events, activities time to time, and I would like to volunteer in different causes, because one thing, it's a passion. The second thing, the networking helped me. That helped me to find out new ideas. I want to do engineering, but what if I can do this? What if I can do that? So it was very important from the start for me to learn new things, to volunteer myself. There were times that I used to even volunteer for hospitals from very start. And it was a very hard time for me. And I used to see people's pain, how it is hard for people to pay the bills. So that actually gave me the idea of our volunteer organization, NITI, that we have established in Bangladesh after a few years. The goal was to make sure that we advocate education. At the same time, we advocate about entrepreneurship and employment. So from that, we started talking about policies. We started talking about different organizations that were working on this, and to make people aware that education is important. At the same time, also employment knowledge is important. At the same time, you have to know what other employment opportunities are there. It's not just you have to get a job. At the same time, you can actually go for entrepreneurship. So to me, that became my passion over years. And then after that, I realized it's so hard to actually tell people what to do. because when you don't understand firsthand what other people are going through, it's really hard to show that what you have to do. Then I started organizing these workshops for young people actually to come and join us and then understand firsthand what's happening, what kind of jobs do you need, what kind of entrepreneurship opportunities available, what are the laws and policies available, and then how you can actually convey these messages to people who are not aware about this. So from this thing, I understood the idea that leadership is not about just growing yourself, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you are conveying the idea to people and people are actually using this idea to convey it to other people, and then making sure that the idea is out there, to making sure that the knowledge is out there. So that's the first part of leadership to me. The second thing is about self-development. Right after I graduated, I already told you how networking is important, but right after I graduated, I realized, okay, now it's time for a job or entrepreneurship opportunity, but it's so hard. And I can tell you firsthand, to secure a finance, to secure a job, it's extremely hard for the people who are trying. Back then, I cannot even imagine how hard it is now during this pandemic, honestly speaking. So when I was so confused, because the education I received, it's theoretical, it's practical, but none of our organization, none of the universities actually go through practical hands-on industry knowledges that will actually take you to the right industry. So from time to time, I started doing these interviews. I started personally going to places actually for funding, and I was overwhelmed. And first and foremost, industry wouldn't accept me because the knowledge I had was very basic. And the industry has their own tools and own specific skills that wasn't taught us in universities. And even though I had networking opportunities, I knew people from time to time. That became very difficult for me. So I took a break of 7 months exactly to actually self-teach myself about the specific field that I wanted to work on. So for my case, I wanted to be a data scientist. And becoming a data scientist, it's hard enough. And becoming a female data scientist, it's really hard because people would actually not consider you firsthand. Not because you have skills, but there's still this stigma of women working in a STEM field. So I started self-teaching myself from time to time that what to do, what are the skills I need, what are the tools I can do, how can I do freelancing work to learn more about this. And over 7 months, I was so capable that I earned my first job in Malaysia. So it was extremely difficult journey. And that is the second and third point mixed. So even though you have networking, doesn't mean that you will earn a position in the society for income. So it's very important to you and to your family to understand that how skills are important and how you should learn it. After skills, I came to this industry, and this is the third thing I would like to say. So being in an industry doesn't mean you can sustain your job. So this is the last and most important thing. So you have to know how it's important to be, important to grow yourself. So the skills and activities are fine. The networking is amazing, but you have to be patient. You have to allow yourself actually to learn more, to grow yourself more, because you will have the same job as 10 more people or 50 more people. How you can make sure that you are the right leader for your company. or your own organization. So it's very important to make sure that you're learning yourself. From time to time, you're updating yourself, and at the same time, you're listening to people, actually. So when you're working, you will have a lot of ideas coming out from people. You will have a lot of ideas during teamwork. So you have to listen, and people have to listen to you. And then during this listening time, you will come up with a collaborative idea that will actually benefit you and your company at the end. So these are the three things that were very important for me. Even right now, it's very important for me. Apart from this, so I already told you about the volunteer organization that I'm working with. I came up with the opportunity from my time to work with single mothers, even work with different youth organizations from time to time. And then we actually collaborated and found out that the opportunities we have for youth and women are very less at the moment. So that became my passion, and I am currently working for it. And honestly speaking, pandemic has been very rough for all of us, and I can tell that Indonesia is already has 65 million youths right now, and around 2.7 million people are unemployed right now. So the best suggestion I will give to you as youth, that please make sure you do not rely on government itself. So if you have the capability, please make sure that you are doing something for your society, because we have people who are unemployed. We have people that their children cannot go to school, but that doesn't mean that they have to be uneducated. You can actually step up and you can create some of this platform to educate these children. And so if you have the opportunity, please do something for you. And then when you do it, you will feel really good about it in the end. And we are trying our best to do something from our end as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Waziha. So guys, that's our last speaker for today, but don't be sad because we see all your questions. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm. We see all your questions. There's a lot of questions. So speakers, be ready. There will be questions that are regarded to each of you. I see a lot of questions here. So I will start with the first question for Anne. Anne, are you there? Yeah. I'll read out the question. So there is a question from Nada Marsha Putri from Nada here. Nada asks, thank you so much for this motivation pills I got tonight. I would like to ask, have you ever gotten into a demotivation? Like, have you ever got into a demotivated situation? So many people don't know how to deal with being demotivated. If you are in this situation, what will you do to bring back yourself as a motivated leader?
So have I ever been in that situation? More than I can count on one hand. If I had to go through all of them, we'd be here till tomorrow or next week, probably. Mm-hmm. I would say one of the most demotivating things that as a female leader that I've experienced time and time again is the comment that women should not be in leadership positions. I've been to a university conference in a country that was known to be quite liberal, and even there was a professor who told me that I should not be a researcher, I shouldn't be in academia because I was a woman. The main thing to do to pick yourself up is actually accept it. There's going to be people who are not going to be nice to you, who are going to be disagreeing. Live and learn. The question that I ask myself is, how do I want to respond? Am I going to give into this type of ideas that, okay, women shouldn't be in leadership positions? And am I going to draw back, but then they win? Or am I going to feel sad for a minute, talk to a friend, hug? This was pre-corona, by the way, we were allowed to hug back then. And am I going to stand up and going to continue? And knowing that I'm going to continue despite those type of people actually makes me feel really good about myself. And it actually makes me feel, well, at least I've achieved something, because I've been annoying enough to them that they felt they had to make a personal attack. So it works as a motivator to me, and you can switch that around by action. It's difficult, but switch it around by knowing at least you've been annoying to them, because otherwise they wouldn't actually respond to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne. Moving on to the next question. Okay, whoa, there are so much. There's so much questions. For Imam Bashar Arafat, are you there?
Of course I am.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so there's a question for you from Fajar Haki Ismail. So Fajar here asks, if I may, there is a question that concerns me as a Muslim and a global citizen, as well as someone who admires world peace and also sustainability in the 21st century. Dear speaker, dear sir, what is your opinion regarding Samuel Paty's murder case in France? Thanks in advance.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that just last month, I was at the French embassy participating in the prayer vigil for the murder of this French teacher. I call it a murder because this is not the way the Quran taught us how the Prophet should respond, and his response should be exactly the way Gabriel taught him and the way Almighty taught him. This is the same response that God also told us about Jesus and how he responded to those who cursed him or dealt with him in a violent way. This is the same response the Quran told us how Moses was instructed by the Quran also to deal with those who did harm to him. And this is not the only case. We are going to see a lot of cases like this in the future as well. And that's why I'm saying the worst virus we are going to face today after Corona is going to continue the virus of ignorance of one another and the hate that is going to be created. So we have a lot of responsibility as a community to educate, but the way you educate others is going to be different from one person to another. And that's why I'm really so much concerned today. If I will tell you, I see this in my dream, you might not believe it, but we are living in a time right now, it's an extremely, extremely sensitive time. We just saw this sensitivity here in the Washinton area. I lived this sensitivity with Black Lives Matter, and I went to Washington and I was interviewing those people because I thought this is a change, that we are seeing a change here in America. And now with the defeat of Trump, quote unquote, alhamdulillah, this is also another kind of a change, but we are now facing Trumpism after Trump. And this is another challenge. But how you are going to deal with the Trumpism that is now surfacing in Europe and surfacing in other countries around the world, that's the challenge for the religious leaders. And I'm calling now to the Muslim religious leaders, how to be aware of these challenges and how you can counter these challenges in Europe and in the United States. Yesterday, when I was preparing for this talk, I was meditating. And while I was meditating, the thought came to me that imagine Dr. Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti, rahimahullah, one of the big scholars who was murdered in Syria in 2014. He had the opportunity to come and meet with people at the Congress and the people at the Senate in Washington. Of course, he never made it to America. But I was saying, imagine if great scholars of the Muslim world made it and they had meetings regularly with the Congress, with the Senate, with evangelical Christians and others. Imagine if, like today, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, if he will have regular visits, if he will train other Imams from Al-Azhar to have regular visits to Washington, to France, to Britain, to Germany, and we see them all the time. Why that is not happening? Who is responsible? So while I was meditating, it became loud that who is responsible? I'm not going to put the responsibility on these Arab governments or Islamic governments here and there. I'm going to put the responsibility on me, who is living here in America. And that's what I would like to tell my fellow youth leaders, that you have to assume the responsibility. Do not wait for the Indonesian government to hand you a grant. Do not wait for the American government to hand you a grant. Do not wait for the European government to hand you a grant. You get up and you assume the responsibility. I grew up under the mentorship of the Grand Mufti of Syria, and the way he used to train us by this, he would say, Ya Ibni, the Quran is saying about Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham, that Allah is addressing him, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan, qanitan lillahi hanifa. Abraham by himself was a nation. So he used to tell us, Ya Ibni, each one of you has to assume the responsibility that he or she are going to bring a change to the Muslim world. But you are not able, you cannot bring this change if you do not understand the word, if you don't study the word. One of the speakers spoke about the importance of theoretical and practical. In our curriculums, and I'm a production of these Sharia curriculums in Damascus, Syria in the 80s, we studied a lot of things, but nobody took us to see how the German society is different from the French society, and how the French are different from the Dutch, and how Europe is different from America. We studied a lot of things about the past, but we did not study about our current time and the future. So my response to make a change in France and in the United States by us getting engaged, and I will end by this, last Monday we had a breakfast with the French ambassador to talk about this big problem. And in my Facebook, I received a lot of criticism. How come you are meeting with the French ambassador? To me, this is the problem. You cannot wait for people to come to you. You have to go and you have to talk. And believe me, the people are willing to listen.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much, sir. And next we move on to the next question. This is to Ayanna. Ayanna, are you there? Ayanna? Okay, let's move on to the next question first. For Waziha. Waziha, are you there?
No, Ayanna.
Yes.
Ayanna?
Yeah, I was there, but there was a problem with the audio maybe.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Sorry, I also missed that. Okay, Ayanna, there's a question directed towards you. What is the first, dear Miss Ayanna Moon from Helmi. Helmi here asks, what is the first step to becoming a leader? And as a leader, should we prioritize our morals or the interests of the public? Thank you.
Sorry, there is a audio problem once again. Can you ask me the question once again? I'm so sorry.
No worries. Okay, so the question is,
yes,
what is the first step to becoming a leader?
Yes.
And the next question is that if you are a leader, should you prioritize your morals or the interest of a bigger public, of the public?
Yes, so actually my answer is, I think understanding, because I'm still 24 years old, but before this I also handled quite big campaign, especially in Korea, which relate to politics, and also I had to work with many people who were older than me. Most of them are more than 30 years old, and then they already graduate from very good university. They finished their master's, Ph.D. degrees, but I had to handle them. And also, especially in political field, there are many smart people. So sometimes it's quite hard to treat all of them, because they want to say many things, and then all of them are think that they are right. But actually, they are right. Is there any problem with my audio? Is it okay?
It's okay. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. So at that time, I also thought that some of them were already wrong. But at that time, I didn't know that how I could handle the team. And then I just thought many times, how could I handle them without any big issue and other controversies, because we are the team. So at the time I try to show how I understand them. I mean, like, I just admire, I just accept the way they did, and also I just try to improve themselves. And also I was the leader, but I didn't just show up how close I was with posts, or how smart I was. I was not so smart, but anyway, as the leader, people might thought like that. So I think understanding is quite very important, because especially in the big group, even though we don't understand each other, actually we cannot do anything. And also, if the leader cannot understand the each's ability and then their things, actually we cannot lead the team.
Okay, so are you done with your answer, Ayanna? Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So you're done with your answer? Okay. So moving on to the next question, or does Ayanna still have something to say? Okay, there's a bit of technical issue. No worries. So we'll move on to the next question. It's okay. No worries. Okay, this is for Adeel. The question is from Adeel. Are you there? Adeel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you're there. So Adeel, there's a question from you for you from Reza. Reza here asks, I would like to ask you, what is the solution of your opinion regarding the rise of populism in every political spectrum in today's world? As someone that is progressive and moderate, this concerns me a lot.
Can you explain what what they mean by populism?
I think it's about the rise in, basically the political power is divided into two now, and there's just what's been discussed. There's more and more, well, like segregation between communities. Like, I think that's what the person who's is trying to convey.
Okay, and so it's how do I explain, or how is there a cure for it?
Like, how do you how do you face the world that with how the segregation is rising?
Okay, yeah, good question. So basically, there are different levels of spirituality when it comes to our concept of communities. Okay, that's the first point. There's two main points. So with this, so you can say, for example, my community is Indonesians, or my community is Muslims. That's kind of one more level. And then at a higher level, you say my community is the global humanity. Or you can say my community is all of God's creation, right? So it's your perception of what you think community is. Number two, understanding that whenever there is a predominant economic and political system, generally speaking, they're trying to suppress any other type of competition, whether it's religious, cultural, racial, whatever it may be, right? And so as people of spirituality and inshallah as spiritual leaders, you want to be able to find ways to convey to your own communities, those who are following us, that actually any oppression that we do to other people, any people who are not have their full rights given to them, we are actually oppressing ourselves, and we are not enabling us to benefit from the entire fruits of the society. Because every type of people that God created has something good to give us that we are oppressing, that we don't understand fully the benefits, right? Without appropriating, want to give them the credit and give them the the power and the agency to do their work and to be great benefactors to all of us and beneficiaries to all of us. At the same time, creating that sense that anytime that we are not coming together as a community, how does that hurt our own personal development as a community? Hope that made sense.
That did, and thank you very much for your answer. Next question, we move on to Waziha. Waziha, are you there?
Hi, yes.
Waziha? Okay, awesome. Waziha, there's a question for you from, one moment. Too many questions. Okay, from Kinanti. Kinanti here asks, I would like to ask, how do we show others that we have a leadership spirit? And how important is leadership management according to you?
So to answer, Kinanti, thank you for this amazing question. Leadership is something you cannot just show off. So the first rule of being a leader is you have to be helping people in a way that you actually don't show off your skills, or you don't show off that you are in position. That's why you have to be really to the ground person, first of all. If you are being a leader, you have to know what you are dealing with, which means you have to know your skills. You have to know your communication. You have to know your networking. You have to be extremely patient. And at the same time, you have to know how to convey all this into the real world, into your day-to-day life. So that's how you can actually harness your leadership. So Kamal, what was the second question that was asked about the leadership management?
How important is leadership management according to you?
It's extremely important. So you don't have to be into a huge level of leadership position to actually make impact. So leadership management is, for one person, is extremely important to learn before you are going into the real world. So how you can work with people, how you can talk to people, how you can make sure that the other people is listening to you and working at the same time. So how others are not protesting to what they're talking about. So it's extremely important to day-to-day life to convey the right message of leadership. Hence, you have to know what kind of leadership you're getting into. So you have to harness these skills, as I said already. You have to know what kind of networking you're doing. Also, you have to know what are the other people are expecting from you, so that you can actually convey the right thing to the other people. So yeah, that's from my side.
All right, thank you, Waziha. Moving on to the next question. It's meant for Naida. Naida, are you here? Are you still in the Zoom room?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Naida, a question for you from Matahari. Matahari here asks, Dear Ms. Naida, thank you for sharing. Based on your experience, what are the challenges for the Bosnian community, especially the youth born and living outside of Bosnia, surviving the transnational identity or multiple identities in general? How can we take part as a global citizen to support transnational communities in simplest thing that we might never notice? Is the question clear?
Thank you. Yes, that's a very good question, and that question in the same time presents a problem at the current time with this the rise of populism, but also with this nationalist climate around Bosnia, around the whole Western Balkans in the last I would say 20 years. There is no Bosnian youth. And that's the biggest problem. So the citizens of Bosnia, the young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, are never considered Bosnian They're considered as members of one of their major 3 respective ethnic groups. So they're either Bosniaks, Croats, or Serbs, and they define their identities, they define their challenges, their weaknesses, their education system, everything within their respective ethnic group. So when you have a person, so just to put things clearer for you, those 3 ethnic groups were in a conflict during 90s. Bosniaks are majorly Muslims, Croats are majorly Catholics, and Serbs are majorly Orthodox. They identify themselves with their religion, but not, and their ethnic group, but not at all with their country. So if you have a young person who is born in Europe or anywhere outside of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and whose parents were Bosnians at one point of their lives, they would not identify themselves as Bosnian. They would identify themselves as one of the members of the ethnic groups. How to help and aid that? I wish I have an answer for that. I'm still working on that, still trying to understand. I would say that the main thing there is changing the narratives, first within the country, and then the general narratives. And I think that someone here asked a very good question. I'm looking forward to that question. The question whether nation rights or nation building is more important than human rights. So that comes up, the answer to this question pretty much comes up to this, to clarifying this issue. So whether being a member of a certain ethnic group means more than belonging or your constitutional patriotism legacy, or however you want to call it. So changing narratives, of course, sharing personal stories, of course, getting on the same page on on the certain events in history is very important. Education is very important. Unfortunately, in Bosnia, the history stops, teaching history stops in 1995. This is till how long we talk about. Later on, we don't talk about that. So we have the whole generation of young people who are learning about history and events from Google, and from deeply polarized narratives within the media. So how should we help? I guess we should all work towards being more media literate, towards pushing education and striving for better education and better teaching history. And of course, as I always say, and I did say that you have to be you have to have something that's deeply personal for you, but you also have to be very, very careful not to be biased and not to like transfer your personal traumas or beliefs onto other people, but just let them decide on themselves. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Naida. Everyone, guys, we're running out of time, but I would still like to ask all the speakers present in this room to give your 1 minute last remarks. So because we're running out of time, I would like to kindly ask you to please also count on the time, just your last statement, just 1 minute for everyone, for every participant that has joined here. And after that, we will do a conclusion, and also we will have a picture session together. So we'll be taking pictures together with the MC. So I would like to start from Naida. Let's just start from you. You're still muted. You're still muted.
Sorry. It was a pleasure to be with you today. Everything, you have some very good questions and very good reasoning. I would be happy to further discuss it with you. I will write my email down so you can ask whatever you want. I will use my minute to answer another question that was here, and that was how do you act around how will you be a good leader? What makes a good leader? And the answer for me is the fact that you do not strive I mean, you do not define yourself as being a leader. Act like one. You know that saying, fake it till you make it. Well, that's pretty much how you can also do this. Just do the best you can, leave a mark. Give the best you can, do the best you can to leave a mark, to leave something behind you, and just believe in the consequences or in the impact you will make. The label, move away from labels. The label of the leader does not make you a leader, does not automatically give you a leadership. It's don't overburden yourself with those labels. Just move on, work, and learn. Use this COVID-19 I know it's hard, but try to get out of it smarter, kinder, and more firm in your beliefs. And that's from myself.
Okay, thank you so much, Naida. Okay, next, I would like to call Waziha. Give us your 1 minute remark.
From my side, it would be you have to know your struggle, you have to own it, and you have to be confident when you're fighting with everything around you and making yourself visible in front of everyone. All right, that's all from me. Thank you.
Amazing. That's very short but sweet. Thank you, Waziha. Next, Adeel, if you may give your remark.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by how much knowledge is coming in by everyone. Wow. Wow, that's all beautiful. I think one thing that comes to mind, and I think Imam Mohammad can also appreciate this, and Gugan, and we're classmates in seminary. When I was first starting Islamic studies, our sheikh or our teacher, he said people are asking him from among the students, when are we going to become shayukh? When are we going to become scholars and imams and sheikhas and ustadas and all this? They were just so passionate about getting there, right? And his answer was that you are going to be a student of knowledge for the rest of your life, right? And that mentality, I think, going on what Naida was saying is you take away the labels and you focus more on I'm going to be a student. I'm going to keep trying to learn, and I want to be a follower. And then ultimately people will follow you and make you a leader, right? It's not just your knowledge. It's not just your accolades and your degrees and your certifications. It's the right intention and then God's decree and the people themselves giving you that. And the last thing I'll say, those who know me know that I'm really into pop culture, into movies and stuff like this. And there's two movies I like to quote. One is Star Wars, Episode 3, where you have the idea of Anakin Skywalker being the chosen one. And he's groomed from a very early age to be the one who brings balance to the Force, which is a great honor. And what happens is slowly, he gets too much involved in the worldly life and possessions, and he becomes one of the worst people on the earth. And then the other example is from Batman, Dark Knight, right? Dark Knight, where you have Harvey Dent, who is the White Knight of Gotham, they call him, and so he's supposed to be this person of moral, the epitome of moral excellence, right? And then there's a quote in the movie that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, right? Which is very powerful in that, we want to make sure that ethical living, having a strong moral compass, having good mentors, keeping ourselves in check, having good friends around us to make sure, because as soon as you lose your ethics and your morality, people will stop following you and your capacity to be a leader is gone. So I'll close with that, inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan, barakallahu feekum. Thank you everyone for your time and efforts. May Allah accept from all of us. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Adeel. Walaikum salam. Next, I would like to move on to Ayanna. Ayanna, are you there to give your closing remark?
She already left.
She already left. Okay, let's move on to Imam Bashar. Can you give your closing remark?
Yes, thank you very much. I just would like to focus my closing remarks on three things. Number one, a successful leader is the one who trains a leader after him. And that's the legacy that you want to leave behind. Because remember, you are here on the surface of this earth only for a short period of time, and then you are moving like others who moved before you. A true leader is the one who planned also how to teach and leave a legacy of leaders behind him or her. And the second point is the importance of the spirit and the mind. And that's why the first story in the Quran was about Almighty telling the angels that I'm creating a human beings. And of course, all the angels were kind of objecting, and they were asking why. And God told them, I will let you know why. And then he asked Adam to tell them the knowledge of their names or the names of everything. So the point is, you have to rely on the spirit of Almighty and on the gift of the intellect that he gave you. And that will lead me to the third point, because of your intellect that is guided by your spirit and guided by your faith, asking Almighty to always keep you on the straight path, because you never know how your ego or your desires or your forgetfulness will keep you away from the straight path. And the third point is to use your mind to see the change around you, because one of the will of and the signs of the greatness of Almighty, that the change that we live in. So your time is completely different than the time of your parents. I'm talking to you and I'm connecting to you through my laptop and through my phone. These, cell phones, and right now all of this, iPhone technology and Android, whatever, was not even there 20 years ago. So the change is constant, and you have to be able to be guided through your spirit that is connected with the spirit of Almighty to help your mind to see how you are going to create that sync between the change and the right moral values that exist in the teachings of all the prophets who came before us, in order to create a better world and happiness among the human family. And that's why I call my conferences for youth from 76 countries, Better Understanding for a Better World. And you are all welcome to this conference that's going to be happening in Indonesia, but of course in partnership with IDE and Brother Gugun. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, the last remark of our speaker. Anne, are you there?
Hi, thank you. So I'll keep it short. Lead from your heart, inspire through your passion. So, and don't just think about politics and great leadership. Also think on your local level. What kind of hobbies can you inspire other people to form groups to connect? And I think something that may not have been mentioned as well, but that is very important, is allow yourself within reason. So yes, lead by example. That's very important. But you're also a human being. We all have our flaws. And that doesn't mean that we can't be great leaders. Martin Luther King was a great leader, but he was also a womanizer. Allow yourself a flaw or two. Don't beat yourself up if you don't achieve the first time, or if you do something wrong, or if you mess up. The first thing that I always say to the people who join the LPR is, you're going to make mistakes. And that's great, because you're going to learn from them. Don't beat yourself up, because if you're not making a mistake, you're not doing anything. And that's what I wanted to say. And anyone who wants to join in the academic debates, you can follow our sessions at dublinlpr.ie.
Okay, amazing. And I second everything that you just said right now. So I will be reading a conclusion of the whole forum that we did for a very fruitful 2 hours, very enthusiastic, questions, and also very inspiring speakers. So if I may conclude, as youth, we have so much power within us that we should be engaged in activities and issues that we're passionate about. We need to realize and internalize our talents, work ethic, and also passion. And of course, being the future leaders, it is vital for us to develop ourselves because one day we will be the one leading the change to make this world a better place. So by that, I'll also be saying I'm also thankful for this opportunity to IDE or IDE Indonesia. And also to the speakers, because I had a very great conversation with all of you. That was a very great session with all the speakers. And I will be giving the floor back to our MC, Nata. Nata, silahkan.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Kak Lala, moderator kita. Okay, everyone, since our time is limited, we will do the photo session. Okay, please open your video camera. Okay.
Okay.
We will start the Zoom screenshot now.
Okay, prepare yourself. There's 6 slides. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's. Sorry. There's something. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. Sorry. There's 6 slides. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And next. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Finish. Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih banyak kepada para pemateri yang telah menyampaikan ilmu, pelajaran, wawasan yang luar biasa, sangat menginspirasi kita semua. Kemudian para peserta yang telah hadir dalam acara ini, teman-teman delegasi dari PPI Dunia Kawasan Timur Tengah Afrika, PPI Dunia Kawasan Amerika Eropa, kemudian PPI Dunia Kawasan Asia, terima kasih banyak, dan delegasi dari organisasi lainnya di Indonesia. Kemudian teman-teman yang telah bergabung di acara ini, terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya. Sampai bertemu di acara IDE Indonesia selanjutnya. Ikuti terus media sosial kami, ada di Instagram IDE Indonesia, kemudian di Facebook, di YouTube. Nanti kita akan tayangkan acara ini di YouTube IDE Indonesia. Oleh karena itu, ikuti terus sosial media kami. Dan terima kasih banyak untuk para panitia yang telah mengadakan acara ini. Semoga kita di acara selanjutnya. Terima kasih banyak yang mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan dan kesalahan. Saya Naida Softić dari Tunisia pamit undur diri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you everyone. Thank you Naida. Thank you Anne. Thank you Kamala. Thank you Adil. Thank you Imam. Thank you Waziha. And all delegates. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.